Impressive.
This has got to be my least original opinion, but there's something so disappointing about when a franchise finally bites the bullet and switches to CGI. Maybe it's because the Cocomelonification of animation for kids is arguably haunting, or maybe it's because the background behind this switch takes some of the magic and workers' rights out of animation. CGI, or computer-generated imagery, includes 2D or 3D. However, almost every article I found made a point to say that CGI typically is used to reference 3D. I don't know much about animation from any viewpoint besides a consumer's, but CGI doesn't sound bad in theory. So then when did we all come together and decide that CGI reboots are the artistic kiss of death for any animated franchise? And while I reference CGI for special effects in live action, film, and television, please note that my big point does revolve around cartoons, typically lower budget children's animation that use full CGI. This thought came to me the other day when I threw on Robots, the 2005 movie that feels arguably lost to time. While I recalled the story being good, I was half expecting the animation to look awful. And while the CGI in this film isn't perfect, it has heart. Each robot looks and moves differently, some stiff, others fluid. Nothing looks overly smooth in an uncanny valley sort of way. Even live action in the 2000s had a certain genuinely good flavor when it came to CGI. Lord of the Rings and Speed Racer are the first two that come to mind for very different reasons. But as charming as these effects are, you can usually tell what's a product of the 2000s and 2010s. But the reason that these instances of CGI dated themselves is the same reason it's become the norm now. Technology advanced. Back when CGI was the new frontier, it was expensive to produce and required specialized skills. Artists who worked in CGI were in high enough demand that instead of unionizing, they formed an honorary society, the Visual Effects Society. But as technology rapidly advanced, working with CGI was no longer considered specialized, and the workers' quote-unquote value dropped. It doesn't have anything to do with the CGI itself. The problem is that Hollywood is misusing CGI beyond the limits of what it's good for, as well as cutting corners financially that result in unfair labor practices and poor work. So long story short, whether it's animation or live action, CGI can be pumped out quickly by artists who aren't unionized and therefore have a harder time advocating for themselves. There's a reason Disney can bop out a bajillion Marvel movies a year, and I doubt it's because great ideas just keep on coming. I guess I am talking about live action just as much as cartoons because the use of CGI in cinema has shifted from something that spices up the visual aspects of film to, let's face it, kind of a crutch. Back when practical effects were the norm, each aspect of the movie required some movie magic and thinking outside of the box. Visual effects helped and CGI helped, but it wasn't the glue. In the realm of full animation, Care Bears, Ninja Turtles, and even Rugrats have been CGI-ified, which, as animation left the 2000s and entered the 2010s and 2020s, was becoming much less exciting for fans. And here's where I leave the world of facts and dump my personal opinion on you. The main drawback of CGI from a visual perspective is that it all ends up looking very similar. I'm not saying these shows don't have solid plots, voice acting, or even that the animation itself isn't good from a technical perspective. But when the cheapest option is the one most aggressively produced, there's bound to be a bloat of a particular art style. Cartoons animated in the traditional sense, like not animation style traditional but still being drawn by hand traditional, each have a very particular style. If you see this background, you immediately know it's from Nickelodeon, or you may even recognize it from Fairly OddParents. And this? This is from the CGI reboot of the Strawberry Shortcake franchise, Strawberry Shortcake's Very Bitty Adventures. The reason these CGI shows and movies have extremely similar looks is because CGI tends to prioritize mass appeal, circling back to profitability. Like, I get it. Why would shows aimed at younger audiences revert to the days of ugly but charming animation when this art style is doing a better job at selling toy lines? Why would a bigwig in Hollywood wait years to put something out when CGI could get the job done almost immediately? We're all at home silently mouthing artistic integrity, but that inevitably pushes back deadlines. In my opinion, Into the Spider-Verse and Arcane are two recent examples of amazing animation. Into the Spider-Verse was met with immediate commercial success, but it still took nearly 5 years to produce the sequel. Arcane Season 2 was announced shortly after the first season was released on Netflix back in 2021, but it's taking a long time for any concrete news on its release, and we're already halfway through 2023. Nevertheless, the overall response from fans is that if getting animation like this means waiting longer, it's worth it. So I guess the short answer is that profit usually beats artistic integrity in this proverbial rock, paper, scissors game, which means that not only does CGI win over traditional animation, but this particular brand of CGI. Because if we're looking at wholly animated CGI shows and movies, it's not all bad, and it used to look a bit different. Jimmy Neutron, as ugly as that show was, had a distinct look. Most CGI shows now tend to not only make their character models and backgrounds look similar within its own universe, but within animation as a whole. If I put CGI Mario into the CGI Care Bears world, he wouldn't look very out of place, and that, in my opinion, shows just how universal it's all gotten. I'm not blaming these problems on cost alone, but as shows like Dead End Paranormal Park get the boot, I can't help but wonder if the time and cost it takes to create original and traditionally animated series are no longer deemed worth it from the industry perspective. And if the reason behind cheaper production was simply people prefer it now, I'd shut my mouth. But the reason involves underpaying artists, and based on the current Writers Guild of America strike, this is not an isolated problem. In short, the big problem isn't, nor has it ever been, that CGI is noticeable, cheap, or similar in look. The bigger problem is that CGI has become a means of pumping out content that has just enough mass appeal to sell without, again, much artistic integrity. CGI used to be more noticeable, sure, but movies like Sin City and Speed Racer used this aesthetically. I don't care that it's cheap, I care that it's cheap because workers are being mistreated. Sure, I wish fewer CGI movies and shows look the same, but a lot of studios reuse art styles. At the end of the day, CGI isn't the enemy, but when a franchise is being pushed to CGI, when there's less flowing movement, when each character looks arguably the same, it's usually a sign of the bigger issue. The show or movie isn't trying anything new or being authentic. Instead, the company would rather have a lot of mediocre episodes as opposed to 9 episodes that, bless the arcane animators' hearts, takes years to work on because it's just that good and perfection takes time. I can't speak for all animation fans, but it seems like most of us, when it comes to picking between a lot of something okay and a little bit of something great, tend to prefer studios taking their time to produce animation that has individual flair and character. And I hope that I do speak for all of us when I say that I want artists who are pouring their hearts into film and TV to be treated fairly in the workplace.